You're watching Brain Gainz.
Yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Brain Gainz. It is November 2nd, and we got a good show for you today. My name is Tyler McGlasson, and these are my co-hosts today, Alec and Heather. Heather is actually our special guest, Heather Eastman. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, tell us about yourself.
Well, I've been a personal trainer for 13 years, and in that time I've coached competitors. I've been a competitor myself, and I've also worked in the medical field, and I know a lot about exercise, nutrition, the human body, and...
You also write for the website, right?
I do. I'm a content editor here at Bodybuilding.com, and you might recognize my voice if you've listened to the podcast.
That's right. So Heather's kind of all over the place. She's kind of a resident expert on a lot of stuff, so it's really great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's good to be here.
If you didn't know, this is Brain Gainz. We do a live show every month here from the Bodybuilding.com headquarters. We take your questions live. We have a topic that we talk about every week. This week, we're going to be talking about gut health, what you got going on in that belly. But before we get to that, we have some news stories as per usual, so we're going to jump into Alec head first. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, so fun one this month. Usually I try to keep it kind of more in the fitness realm with something that we might not necessarily blast on BBcom as much, but this month something that was rather impressive was this 14-year-old lifter named Hampton Morris. So this guy, being 14 again, just reiterating, he squatted his 2.5 times his body weight for 10 reps. So I don't know if that really resonates with as many people as it should, but 300 pounds by 10 times for perfect form. And there should be a link to the video in the stream. Depth, absolutely insane. And the fact that he also does Olympic lifting where he just clean and jerked 250, 3.5 pounds. So,
I mean, they say being able to lift twice your weight is already pretty good. For a lot of lifters, even that is a lot. So being able to lift 2.5 times your weight, 14 years old, and if you guys want to watch the video of this kid doing it, he's going way below what we would consider normal depth in that squat. He's going all the way down. So big ups to the kid. I think that, it's super cool.
And he's got a great career ahead of him if he just stays healthy with
What's his name again, if people want to look him up?
Hampton Morris.
Hampton Morris. And I'm sure our content people are going to be dropping a link into the chat if you guys want to check that out. It'll be in the description below if you're watching via YouTube. Check that out. It's actually pretty incredible. So anyway, I'm going to go with my topic now. As you guys know, I usually like to go with some of the more sciencey stuff. We got a new study from the International Society of Sport Nutrition this month, and it's actually pretty cool. So I don't know if you guys ever warm up for your exercises. I'm sure you do.
Sure.
And we do that for a couple of reasons. And one of the main reasons is to get the blood start flowing. You want to feel warm. Your muscles feel a little bit more loose. But actually, we're starting to learn a little bit more about another reason why you might want to warm up, and it's something called post-activation potentiation. That's a really long way to say that using your muscles actually primes them to activate better the next time that you use them.
You don't say.
I know, right? So if I lift hard right now or lift moderately right now, I'm kind of getting them ready for working really hard here in just a moment. And so they wanted to test this theory. Does post-activation potentiation work? Is it a thing? And how can it be affected by caffeine? And so what did they do? They put two groups of people through a test of it was the counter movement jump, and then next day they had them do plyometrics and some exercises before they did their counter movement jump, and then they gave half of them caffeine and half of them a placebo. And it turned out that not only does doing exercises before they did a sprint test, so doing exercises before your sprint test improve your sprint, but taking caffeine on top of that also improves it to an even greater degree. So don't forget to warm up, guys. Not only will it help prevent injuries, make you feel more warm, maybe give you a little bit more flexibility, it may actually help your performance to a degree. I think the improvements were something like 5 or 7%, which is not insignificant when you're lifting 2.5 times your body weight.
That's true.
What up? So very cool. And if you'd like more information on that, feel free to shoot us an email, brain.gainz@bodybuilding.com. I can send the study to you, or if you want to just check it out, once again, I'm sure we got the links in chat, so check it out there.
All right, and because we are talking about gut health today, I chose a story that's a little bit closer to that topic. It's a study on how moving to America can change and adopting an American diet can change your gut biome. So specifically, they took this group of women who lived in Thailand in a very, very remote village, where they grew and ate their own foods. They weren't exposed to anything packaged, processed, nothing like that. And within months of moving to the United States, to the Midwest, and adopting a very American diet, much higher in fat, salt, sugar, processed foods, they actually found that their gut biome changed completely within a few months. And more interesting than that is within a generation. Now, why does this all matter? Well, the gut health is very closely related to a lot of other health aspects in the body, and within a generation, so the next generation of these women, their children, had an obesity rate that went from 5% in the first generation to 30% in the second generation. So that gut biome and that changing by adopting an American kind of Western diet actually changed their obesity rates. And this is a big deal. We see this with a lot of non-indigenous populations that come in and adopt a Western diet. It really changes their disease rates significantly, and that's kind of what we're going to use to kick off our discussion today about gut health.
We're going to talk about gut health and your microbiome and how you can help everything that's going on there, because there is a surprising amount of connections between how you treat your belly and how that affects the rest of your body in ways that we are just now scratching the surface of learning. So it's very cool. We've been getting a lot of questions already from YouTube and from chat, so thank you so much, guys. I see questions from Adam, Gurwinder, Akash, Camillus, Virusaur, everything basically pertaining to what we're going to talk about. So we will get to your guys' questions here in just a minute. We're going to answer those very directly. Ward from Twitch asks, are you aware? I don't know.
We are aware.
I'm aware that you are aware.
We are also woke.
Whoa.
Are we woke? We are woke.
I don't want to touch that one. All right, so Heather, kick us off. What do we got going on here?
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the practical aspects of why we care about gut health. We'll get into the health aspects later, but a lot of people come to our website, chasing building muscle, leaning down, really looking for aesthetic improvements. And a lot of people, and we already are seeing questions in the chat, are concerned about, their belly. How do I lose belly fat? And so when I'm talking about the gut, keep in mind that your gut makes up a big portion, your digestive system makes up a big portion of this midsection. So if you're having problems with digestion, that's going to affect your belly kind of look, feel, size, everything there. Specifically, if you're not digesting and eliminating, we'll use that word.
It's a good word.
Another word for it is pooping. So if you're not regularly doing that, you're going to get backed up right across here, and that's kind of the area that people point to, is that little pooch in the belly right there?
Pooch, yeah.
Pooch.
Not here, but like right here.
So
right down at the
kind
bottom.
of some practical tips before we really dive into the nitty-gritty of gut health is, if you are feeling backed up, obviously fiber is something, but water is one of the easiest things. Your whole body runs on water. So if you're not getting enough water, it's plumbing, people. So if there's not enough water to push everything through, it's going to get backed up. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water. That's the first thing I tell my clients when they are kind of feeling backed up or feeling like they're not really working the way they should be, is drink more water. And then high fiber foods as well. So one of the things we were going to talk about is just kind of some quick signs to know whether or not your gut is healthy before we get into the health aspects. And one of them is if you are regular. And again, that's that pooping word. So if you're doing that on a daily basis, I see everybody's laughing back there, but if you're doing that on roughly a daily basis, that's pretty healthy. And then we may or may not link to a chart that shows you how to kind of gauge how healthy it is, and it's really, you can tell a lot about your health by looking at what's coming out of you. Sure. So that's the number one thing, is make sure you're going every day, and then make sure you're digesting. Gas and bloating, believe it or not, are actually signs that your digestive system is working well. And that's something that people don't realize. If you're feeling kind of bloated or if you're getting kind of gassy, it means things are working.
Why does it mean that?
Well, it means that the bacteria in your gut are actually digesting the food, and that's where that gas comes from. That's the kind of byproduct of that digestion process. Now, a little thing to keep in mind is if it's particularly smelly, that might be a sign that something's a little bit off. So you want kind of not so noxious gas, and you want a lot of it. A sign that something is off with your digestion is gas coming out the other way when you're burping a lot. That's a sign that you've eaten too much or too quickly, and it's coming back up the wrong way. We want things to go one way, not the other.
Guilty.
So.
Yeah, been there.
So those are just a couple of kind of quick tips on how to gauge your gut health, and then we'll dive a little bit further into some of the nitty-gritty of
yeah.
health.
So we have some really great questions here that I think are going to really do a good job of segueing us into the next section. So let's first of all address kind of the large question of what is the microbiome. So we talk about it all the time. We mention it on products. We have articles about it. Let's talk about what the microbiome is and how it affects your digestion and what's going on down there.
Okay, so the microbiome, that's just a shorthand way of saying all the bacteria that lives in your digestive system that help to break down the foods that you eat. Now, a more diverse microbiome is more desirable. So if you only have a few types of bugs in your system, that's not good. You want lots of different bugs all working together, and you want them to be in a pretty kind of balanced ratio. You don't want too much of one or the other. So that's what we're talking about when we refer to the microbiome. Now, what you eat can affect that microbiome. So if you're eating more protein, you're feeding more nitrogen, that's going to cause certain bugs to grow more than others. If you're not getting enough proteins, kind of the reverse of that. So what you eat definitely does have an effect, as well as that study that we talked about earlier shows. If you're eating a certain type of diet, or if you go from maybe like a plant-based diet or a natural organic diet to a processed diet, that's going to affect it as well.
Right, because certain types of bacteria proliferate off of particular nutrients. And so if you're feeding the bacteria that really love protein, then they're going to grow better than the bacteria that really don't love protein.
Absolutely.
And so having a balanced diet allows you to be feeding those proper bugs kind of in the proper order. Absolutely.
And one of the concerns that we talk about, and one of the things that we address with supplementation, is probiotics and prebiotics. And Elias is asking, talk about probiotics. So we're going to address that right now.
Attaboy.
Probiotics are basically a supplemental form of feeding that bacteria. So if there's something that's wrong with the digestive system, and what can go wrong with that microbiome? Well, one of the things, like we talked about, is a change in diet. But another thing is, if you're taking antibiotics or have been on antibiotics are going to kill the good and the bad bugs. So it might kill the infection, but it might also kill the bacteria in your gut. And so anytime that you have a kind of that less diverse or not quite so healthy population of bacteria, that's when a probiotic might be a good option for you. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from taking antibiotics. Like I said, it could be poor nutritional choices, or it could be that those signs that we talked about earlier, you're not quite matching up with that. So that might be a sign that you need some help in that department.
Yeah, I mean, you're just introducing bugs that maybe you don't have quite a strong ecosystem with. Maybe we're introducing new ones that might be beneficial to you. So it's a good way to just kind of balance everything out.
Yeah, kind of check your bases. Now, we did get a question from, oh dear, I'm going to butcher that name, but basically, does being vegan help with gut health? Well, when you talk about fiber, a lot of the fiber that we have in our diet comes from plant sources. So you're not going to get a lot of fiber from meat, you're not going to get a lot of fiber from processed grains, but you are going to get fiber from anything that grew out of the ground. So whole grains, fruits, vegetables, those all have a lot of fiber and a lot of water in them. And again, water is one of the things that you need for proper digestion. So since a vegan diet is a plant-based diet, yes, it's going to help with digestion.
So why is fiber important for bacteria?
Why is fiber important for bacteria?
Yes.
That's a good question.
So at least according to my understanding for fiber, we humans don't have the enzymes to break down cellulose, right? Which is kind of the main fiber. But according to my understanding, I think the bacteria actually are able to consume it to a degree. So you're feeding some of the bacteria that can handle some of that fiber. Maybe not all the way down, and that fiber does do a good job of keeping things pushed through. But there are bacteria that do benefit from having that
There
fiber.
are bacteria that benefit from fiber. To me, the main importance of fiber in the diet is that it keeps things moving.
Right,
and anyone who's done a juice cleanse or done a fast will kind of, knows that when you're not eating solid foods, you're not having solid things coming out of you necessarily. So fiber is very important for just the bulk of what comes out and how you eliminate toxins and byproducts from your system.
And that's a good segue. Another question from YouTube from Gerwinder. Heather touched on constipation a little bit. So any tips to kind of get rid of constipation? Drink more water. That's step one. Step two, fiber.
Fiber.
Like the recommended amount that I would kind of give somebody if you do track your food is about 10 to 15 grams per 1,000 calories you consume. And so for instance, I get anywhere between 45 and 50 probably a day. And a lot of the trick with coming with that, if you do get a lot of veggies, that's going to help you. Another huge help is, thankfully, the companies have like high fiber tortillas to a certain degree. On the go, you can snack on one of those a little bit. Some protein bars happen to have a decent amount of fiber too, if you want the convenience factor. But step one is probably water and any sort of vegetable fruit base.
There you go. Perfect.
And that old adage, an apple a day keeps a doctor away, A lot of the fiber supplements on the market are made from apple pectin. So if you like apples, definitely eating an apple a day is going to be more than a good way to get a substantial portion of your daily requirement of fiber. So when in doubt, eat fresh fruits and vegetables whenever possible, and you should be just fine if you're getting the 2 to 3 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, and that's a bare minimum.
All right, Facebook, Rahul asks, does the bodybuilding diet put too much pressure on the gut? We see this one all the time.
We do see this one all the time, and there's been a lot of research on high protein diets and gut health, and your body is very good at creating a balanced ecosystem, so it will change your microbiome when you are on a higher protein, lower carbohydrate, or lower fat diet. Your microbiome will change, but the nice thing about your body being such a dynamic system is that it will adapt to that higher protein diet. I would say if you are on a bodybuilder diet, then make sure you're taking the other steps necessary. You're still getting plenty of fiber in your diet. There's a lot of vegetables are a good one because they provide a lot of fiber without a lot of sugar, whereas fruit has a lot more sugar. And taking a probiotic can keep your gut healthy. And then of course, drinking water and exercise. That's another one for constipation. Exercise and movement in general helps to keep things moving as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons when people ask us about supplements and about gaining weight, we always recommend going with a whole food diet first. So yep, our supplements are great for, in fact, supplementing the diet, but getting whole foods, getting those vegetables, getting the fiber, getting the actual kind of meat and potatoes of stuff to run through instead of just a protein shake to give you your nutrients is really helpful with keeping that microbiome happy.
And I do want to dispel the myth. There's nothing wrong with protein or high protein in terms of gut health. Again, like I said, it's the other factors that go into that. If you're putting a lot of protein in that system but not taking care of the system by drinking enough water, by exercising, then yes, it will stress your system. But that's true of any macronutrient. It's not necessarily, we just tend to pick on protein because that's an easy target.
All right, Stephanie from YouTube asks, what are the differences between different types of probiotic supplements? Is it the kinds of bugs? Is it the amount of bugs?
It's the kind of bugs, it's the amount of bugs, it's, so that...
Yes.
The answer is within the question.
Yes, to all of your different questions. It should say on the supplement which bugs are active in that supplement. So, and I don't know off the top of my head which ones you want.
Lactobacillus is primarily.
Yeah, Lactobacillus acidophilus is really good. Bifidobacterium are also very popular. I know with Bifidobacterium, you start with a very high volume of Bifidobacterium in your gut when you're young, and then as you're old, as you get older, those bugs generally tend to wear away, and so supplementing with them is helpful. And actually, there are a lot of companies who are doing tons of research into how these different types of bugs can beneficially affect you, whether it's through improved digestion, improved regularity, or even supporting your immune system as you go, because these good bugs are actually outweighing bad bugs that may find their way into your system. So yes, the type of bugs do make a difference. We've been working really hard on the creation of the Bodybuilding.com signature probiotic, and we've really done our homework to make sure that we're getting the bugs that we feel like you need and have been studied and show good results. So that'll be good for you guys as well. But if you want to do your own research, there is a lot out there from a lot of great companies doing good research, not only on type of bugs, but on volume of them as well. You'll see them generally in CFUs, which is colony forming units. Basically, this is the number of patches of bacteria that have the ability to form into a small colony within your gut. More is not always better.
No.
Ours is capped at, I think, 10 billion, which sounds like a big scary number, but I see them in the 20, in the 50, and the 100 billion numbers, and I don't know if there's great research to support the bigger is always better adage, but we have worked really hard, and I'm excited to show you guys that product when it comes out very soon.
Yeah.
So
little tease.
Question from Facebook from Ricardo. When eating fiber, fruits and vegetables, is it better to eat them or to have them in smoothies? And I love this question because it's a really good question. So anytime you process your foods before you eat it, whether it's cooking, blending, what have you, think of it like a pre-digestion. So you're breaking it down before your body actually takes it in and breaks it down. Are you losing the fiber? Not technically, because you're still, if you're putting a whole fruit into a smoothie, you're still getting that fiber, but you are pre-digesting that food for your body before you take it. Now, this can be beneficial to someone who has a stressed digestive system because it takes some of the work off of your system, but in terms of being similar to what you would get from eating a whole food, it's messing with how you would normally get that food, so it's not going to be quite the same as eating the food whole. I always default to eating the food whole when possible, but if your only way to get whole fruits and vegetables into your system is by blending them in the smoothie, then that is a perfectly valid option as well.
One really good analogy I've heard before is that of a river. and lots of rocks. And if you take your food and you consume it and you chew it, these are really big rocks kind of moving down the river, and they're very destructive because they're running into things and they're breaking things apart. And so think of that as them pushing food through your digestive system.
Exactly.
And if you blend it, you're turning those rocks into sand. And so that sand just goes in the water and it just kind of moves along, and it doesn't really mess with anything along the way. So yeah, you are getting the nutrients, your body does benefit from those, but it's not quite doing the fiber job that we want fiber to be doing. It's not pulling anything with it, or at least not quite to the degree that we hope.
And one big question, the first question we actually got, just the underlying question related to the topic, why is gut health so important? So you can tie it back to from our usual consumer base from the bodybuilding perspective. If you're not absorbing the nutrients in which you are consuming, you're not putting them to their best use. And for the average Joe to just have healthy living and walking around pain-free, lack of any sort of digestive issues, that's incredibly important. So longevity of health and just absorption, it's huge.
And also there's some newer studies out, and we almost talked about them, that gut health and brain health are very closely related. In fact, the fetal tissue when you're developing in your mother's womb for your gut and your brain starts from the same tissue. So they're very, very closely related. And if you don't believe me, have you ever felt nervous and had that affect your tummy? Because they're very, very closely related. So if you feel nervous, apprehensive, anxious, you start to get the rumbly tummy and you've got to run to the bathroom. That's because the two are very, very closely linked, and they're starting to tie gut health into some mental disorders as well, which is very exciting because there's possibility that they can then kind of reverse engineer how to treat those disorders before they occur. So very, very exciting. But you know, even if the whole being able to absorb nutrients doesn't do it for you, brain health and mental health is part of your gut health as well. So how you feel and your mood is very closely tied to your digestive system.
There you go. If you want to learn more about that, I know it goes kind of by the name of the gut-brain axis.
It does.
If you want to check it out, that'd be an easy thing for you to look up on the internet. We can talk about it more on a different episode if you want, but that would be the name of kind of what Heather's going for here.
Yes, if you look up gut-brain axis, you'll find information. Now, we did get a question from YouTube, from Vishrad. How does milk affect gut health? Well, as we all know, a lot of people are sensitive or intolerant of milk products. So any type of food sensitivity just means that your body does not have adequate enzymes to break that food down. So milk is a big one, and if you are sensitive to that and you keep putting that into your system, just know that your body does not have the ability to break that down properly. Now, if you have no issues with it, then just like with the protein conundrum, you should be able to take it in without it having any adverse effects. But be aware that a lot of these big ones, gluten, dairy, I'm drawing a blank on some of the other ones.
And those are kind of the two biggest ones.
But those have a lot of insensitivities and intolerances associated with them. So pay very close attention. You might not be intolerant necessarily, or you might not be allergic, but you might have a delayed reaction to it. So if you're kind of wondering whether or not that's affecting your gut health, try eliminating it for a little while, and you can look up elimination diets and how to do it properly, but it's entirely possible that it could be affecting your gut health. Now, one exciting thing is you definitely, just as you can adjust your microbiome, you can kind of develop and gain the enzymes in certain cases depending on how you go about that elimination diet. So just because you're sensitive now doesn't mean you always will be, unless you have a full-blown allergy, in which case you're probably not going to be able to.
Didn't our friends over at ISSN, didn't Susan Healings do a lot of data for the benefits of milk on gut health? Remember
you're going to have to find that one. I didn't see it.
I'm gonna have to dig into that. Anyway, tease. There might be info on that.
Mark from Facebook asked a wonderful question for our friend Heather. For those of us who are in high-end endurance sports, how would you suggest eating meals with fiber without directly impacting your run split times? Lord knows I don't like running and then having to do my pants.
That's a really good question, Mark. So it's kind of similar to how you would prep before you go into the gym for a big lifting session. You want to kind of play around with what your body personally responds to best. So I know for endurance sports, anything acidic is going to be really hard on your stomach. Anything that takes a long time to digest. But in terms of fiber, I don't know that fiber is going to be a big problem before an endurance
I don't
sport.
think it just automatically makes you have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, fiber takes a while to move through. Again, using that kind of the rocks going down the river analogy, it has to bump into everything along the way. What you should be more kind of worried about is what's going to immediately affect your gut. And like I said, the big ones are very acidic foods or very heavy foods. Definitely a very fatty meal right before is not going to be a great choice, because fat slows down your digestion. That's going to kind of slow up the works and not be fun. So that's why you've heard of the classic carb load before a race. Carbohydrates tend to be a very quick burning fuel source, and your gut tends to empty from carbohydrates much faster than with protein or fat.
Sure.
And if you're lucky, you go to the bathroom before you run, you're going to be lighter, so you will be
There
faster.
you go. Yeah, strats.
And they
Here's a
always
good
have
question.
those
So
porta potties.
I've seen this word pop up a couple times out of our questions today. How does the keto diet affect gut health? So I mean, you just talked about don't eat fat before you run, but okay, so how does a high-fat diet affect your microbiome?
You know, it is also similar to the kind of protein that we discussed before. You know, any macronutrient in excess is going to change how your body functions. So initially, when you're starting onto that high-fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrate diet, which is the ketogenic diet, you want to make sure that you're covering all of your other bases for gut health. You're drinking plenty of water, you're getting exercise, may or may not need to take a probiotic just to kind of keep things healthy. But what will happen is if you follow those steps and stay consistent with it, then you will eventually kind of normalize and find an equilibrium for your body. It's not impossible for your body to deal with massive amounts of fat in a single sitting. Your body's amazing. It's designed to handle that. But you just have to make sure you're giving it all the tools that it needs to do that. And that's water, exercise, and you know, a probiotic supplement and fiber supplements if you feel like you're not adapting well to it.
There you go.
And
we touched on this, I'm sorry, Alec. We touched on this just a little bit earlier, only for a moment, but let's talk about it a little bit more. How does exercise and movement and being active change what's going on inside?
That's a really good question. So basically, it's an actual physical system. So moving around helps kind of move things through, I think, what is it, like 13 feet, yards, something of actual digestive.
It's yards. Yeah.
13 yards of digestive tract, meters roughly for, yeah.
It's in there. It's a long tube.
And so by moving around, you're actually encouraging that, I'm going to butcher this word, peristalsis.
Ooh, nice. You nailed it.
Okay, yay! All right, I'm not good at pronouncing things.
AKA moving food.
The movement of food through the contraction of muscles.
Exactly. It's why you're able to swallow foods even if you're not upright, because you have muscles throughout your digestive system that help push that food down. So the act of moving, even though you're moving your skeletal muscles, it still causes those muscles, the smooth muscles in your digestive tract, to also move and contract. And so being active helps with that movement through the digestive system.
All right, good. I'm looking through here. We have some awesome questions here. So let's see. How
about this one? Noberto from YouTube. When I take probiotic, my poop smells different. Why?
That's a great question.
It's a great question. That you're really close to it if you can get that. If you can smell it from that distance, talk to a doctor potentially. But you're throwing your body through a loop in terms of consuming it. Your body maybe hasn't gotten used to the bugs in which you are consuming, so then it's kind of going through a little funk necessarily to adapt. It happens.
Well, your food's being digested by an entirely different group, right? And so if it's a different bug, then maybe the byproducts of that digestion are just a little bit different, and so different byproducts mean different smell.
Yeah.
So not necessarily a bad thing unless it's absolutely enormously putrid, but.
And if it is enormously putrid, we talked about that earlier, that's a sign that something might be up. Definitely if you're following a healthy diet, like I said, that smell should not be as bad.
Sure.
I know one of the benefits of a vegan diet is that smell definitely is not nearly as bad as it is on a regular omnivorous diet. So
I like my omnivorous diet though, but that's just me.
All right, well, I think that's going to do it for us for digestive health today. If you feel like we did not get to your question, if you have more questions, we are going to be addressing those via email. Before we wrap up though, let's run through a couple of these new products on site. We just want to touch on these real quick. Alec, can you run us through these?
For sure. So we've got, so I'm going to touch on the new flavors first. So Diamondized Pre-Wo just launched cherry watermelon, so that's outstanding. As well as we got a couple seasonal flavors for the wintertime already from Glambia. So BSN, protein crisps, come in a candy cane flavored. If that gets you going, do that. Optimum with their cake bites launched a gingerbread, and Grenade Carb Killer just brought a birthday cake.
Nice, nice.
yay.
And then for new products, little segue with Tyler and I, some fall apparel just launched. There should be a link in the bio for this. If you were a big fan of our summer promotional goodies, fall has its own as well.
That's right, the latest from the Bodybuilding.com apparel team, the Barbell Club. So not only the shirt that myself and Alec are wearing, but a whole line for men and women. We're very excited about it. It actually came out yesterday. It is brand new, hot off the press. Make sure you get your hands on that because there is a limited quantity.
Time only.
So make sure you jump on that right away.
And for the record, this doesn't say bacon, even though now it kind
Everyone
of
says it
sounds
says
like
bacon.
it should.
That's what they were talking
So
about. I was like,
it says
who's wearing a
BBcom,
bacon
but
shirt?
a bacon shirt is a great idea, so we should definitely get that in the works.
I want a bacon shirt.
Besides that, some of the this dietary supplements have been brought on the site. Caged Muscle just launched their Creaclear, and then RSP brought a Keto BHB product, and then our friends over at EVL launched a vitamin D3 and a plant protein.
There you go. All right, finally we have a couple of promotions going up on site. The Trick or Treat Yourself, I think, is still going for a couple more days. We have some BOGOs there as well. And then finally the Muscle and Mass sale. So protein products, protein bars are also on sale for anywhere from 15 to 20% off. So make sure you check that out. But anyway, that's all we got for you today. Thank you so much, guys, for checking out Brain Gainz. Once again, if you have any questions, brain.gainz@bodybuilding.com. We will see you next time. We'll talk to you then.
You have a goal. We have a plan. Bodybuilding.com All Access Premium Fitness Plans to achieve your weight loss goal. Jumpstart your results with Shortcut to Shred or 30 Days Out. Get shredded with Chisel or go hardcore with Chris Gethin. Each plan includes daily workouts, training tips, nutrition and supplement guides, and more. Everything you need all in one place at Bodybuilding.com All Access.